Verseweavers 2021, night 2. This is our finale evening, OPA's finale reading of prize-winning poems from 2021. We have as special guests several of the judges from the contests tonight. Rachel Barton is here, spring theme. Christopher Luna, are you here, Chris? I do not see Christopher Luna, but he may show up before long. He was fall theme. Teal, Asia, and sorry, are you here, my dear? I don't see you either, but you will probably show up soon. Spring under 30. Penelope Scambly Shot. I don't see her here either, but she was planning to come. She was fall under 30. And Efrain Diaz Horna is here. Yay! Judge for our Spanish language spring 2021. All of these judges have been invited to read for us during the open mic, so hopefully they'll all manage to arrive before that time or shortly thereafter. Before we begin the winners' readings, I'd like to introduce and recognize Dale Champlin, OPA's newsletter and Verseweavers editor. Some of you may already know her. Dale is OPA's bread and butter. Without her, little of our creative work would make it to the outside world. She is the graphic designer behind all the beautiful illustrations for our newsletters and our annual Verseweavers covers. She designs the interior layouts, writes the forwards for each issue, and edits all the contents. In addition, she sends the work off to the printers and picks it back up and sends it all out to us. So she is a heavy worker. In 2020, she produced OPA's wonderful 230 plus page volume of pandemic poems, which we released in January of 2021. Dale is OPA's priceless, tireless, highly gifted editor, a prolific storyteller with oodles of imagination, a generously talented, prodigious poet and design artist with a lifetime of experience. When I scrolled through Amazon books this morning, I found 13 entries under Dale's name, 3 collaborations with other authors, 1 book of illustrations, OPA's pandemic anthology, 5 issues of Verseweavers, and 3 of her own collections of poetry, the Barbie Diaries, Callie Comes of Age, and her most recently published just a few weeks ago, Isadora. Remarkable feats of production, vivid proof of Dale's prodigious talents. Please join me in a warm round of applause with sincere gratitude to Dale Champlin. She has been with us every step of the way. Thank you so much, Dale. I really hope you're going to read a poem or 2 from your new collection, Isadora, but anything you read will be just fine. And we'll hope to hear those during the open mic if that would be all right for you. All right, let's get started. Winning poets will be called on alphabetically to read. Our first reader, Amelia Diaz Edinger, has 2 pieces. Amelia has a piece in Spring 21, the traditional Dizaine 3rd place poem called Blind Spots Dizaine on page 39, and from Fall 2021, the traditional Sestina 3rd place, White Crowned Sparrow on page 89. Amelia, are you ready?
I need to find the White Crowned Sparrow, so it's going to take me a minute, but I can do that in between the readings.
Okay.
Blind Spots Disdain. Of course I have a cloud floating in my left eye. The smudge mirror of my life stands cage on the fovea, where images should be amplified. The viscous tissue amalgamates in old age, rendering indecisions, even while reading a simple page. Maybe this floater formed by my own fragmentation. Gardens and children left unattended, without conversations. There is a sort of justice that I have, that I own this blemish, which stands so close to the optic nerve station, the blind spot. No going back, no redoing my wreckage. Okay, if you please forgive me, but I need to find the one for is the white crowned sparrow. White crowned sparrow, says Tina. I fantasize about a white crowned sparrow. She lies softly on my palm, a fat brown scoundrel with prison lines on her head, full of mischief, at play and in and out of a hedgerow in groups of 20 or just the one. She creates a current with her feathers and jumbled whistles, a celebration away from smoke, where the bark is clean and glistening with the moisture of memories of healthy towns, where the tie strings are between friends, where this bird flies without the fear of fire to break, this new reality of a world alight in flames, where together is dangerous. Maybe we can break the runaway train of climate change or viruses that plague the very core, the palm obscure like rubbers, slurping the joy of a bird song and the child who gathers rope to tie a noose around the boundless energy of life. Yes, a sparrow to remind us of our play when smoke, heat, and Gaia were serene, how it was to calmly rest on the smooth bark of a sycamore, surrounded by family, listening to the sound of rain instead of the current of bad news and ugly rhetoric. With sparrow in hand, we could preen out of this current, dictating lies broadcasted in contradicting jargon and half truths. A sparrow to break this distorted state. Imagine the warmth of her scaly legs, her inquisitive eyes, her beak a bark, a small song of spring and future with bountiful blessings. A white crowned sparrow on the palm tree of childhood. She flies unencumbered in clean skies without a red sun from fires that play pandemonium and consume acres of trees, flesh, and ambition, where children no longer tie long streamers for their kites, where they run with spiraling legs, each leap to tie the best score in their game. A sparrow in hand could take them to watch the current of Pachamama's power, the health of a small blue planet where there is no hesitation of a play, on a stage where neighbor can touch a stranger without the need of a mask to break the power of a smile beneath eyes that clamor affinity. I want this white crown on the palm of every child so that she could see the sky free of smog, stars at night, and catch caterpillars on bark, salubrious with her gaiety, prospering forward, driven by the uproarious bark of her community encouragement to chase clouds, earthworms, and wishes that tie fishing poles that catch mercury-free fish, slippery and solvent, but easy to palm gently, those whose scales release into waters rich with the fulfillment of dreams and a current of satisfaction from a healing planet, so that she can raise her own without having to break, in search of a new place to feed her children. A white-crowned sparrow, her kindred could play in this hopeful world, gifted to her from hard work, cooperation, and science at play, with her in mind, not the needs of corporations. Here, in this sparrow world, she sails in a bark propelled by sails and oars of her own making, fulfilling her days at peace so that at day's break she can glory with the white-crowned sparrow in her hand, a small reminder that to tie equal notes of affection and health, she needs to plant the seeds that can give a current of salvation for her children and her children's children to hold palm in palm. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amelia. Those were very challenging poems to write, I would imagine. And wonderful thematic material. Our next reader is Michael Hanner from the Spring 2021 theme Emergence. He won the first place. The poem is called Because You Asked, and it's on page 29. Are you ready to go, Michael?
I'm ready to go. Because you asked. Death is the return to the place we came from. Some say it's a lot like McDonald, Goshen, or East of Eden. I got here via my parents' assault on the nothingness I was. I got here from Ely, Minnesota, never Gretchen. I got here in a wet dream, a cavalcade of disobeying. I got here following Ursa in the sky. Gretchen is thinking, how did I get here? I got here from the labyrinth, through the French doors and into the haze, the hazard. From the foothills of the Andes, 1,000 miles past landlocked Mendoza, Buenos Aires waits, dreaming her chocolate eyes. Her name, thin as an ace, a doxology towed behind the bus. Remember the bus, Ely? So close, Edward Weston came by to shoot some nudes, but Gretchen and her curbs were out wandering in the yucca. Then the explaining, the fiddling with the pantographs, collecting newspapers for the war effort, much forgotten. Perhaps it was reckless to pass the warning signs, but no one spoke Magyar. We were caught in a cat's cradle. The seance is breakfast on the 20th Century Limited. It's October, lost in the Truman administration. In the dining car, there is salt and pepper. In the kitchen, tarragon, chervil, and thyme. You could say a coxcomb, labyrinth, Bathsheba. I kept coming back to the beginning. Each time the beginning was older, a little more fretful, forgetful. The woman with the long neck is dancing with Gretchen. It's Christmas again. Baked ham, Dylan Thomas, the goddamn goose. Gretchen is touching her, or she's touching Gretchen. This conundrum follows them through the coyote years. The wind blew out of Montana like the wrath of God, or someone very much like her. Still, it was a good Christmas, a sticky Christmas, a few cigarette burns on the kitchen table. Since the freeway was built, and that was 50 years ago, nobody from out of town drives through McDonald. Sharon told me I was holding it upside down. It was Lydia with her cat, and she said, "Who the hell is Gretchen?" Thank you.
That was wonderful, Michael. Lots of marvelous details. Next, we have Efrain Diaz-Horna. Fall 2021, he won Spanish language second place. And forgive me if I mispronounce, La Geografía de la Nostalgia, on pages 107 through 110, which includes the translation. Are you ready, Efrain?
Should I read it in Spanish and English or just English?
Oh, read it in Spanish and English. That would be
Oh,
lovely.
okay, okay. La geografía de la nostalgia. Déjame hablarte sobre la geografía de la nostalgia, sobre ese esquema de inefables sentimientos, emociones y recuerdos que bosquejan con sutil trazo aires de Chiclayo, Cajamarca, las cascadas, los Andes, Coos Bay, Salem. Déjame hablarte sobre esa acumulación de valles, ríos, praderas, océanos, montañas y desiertos, sobre esa gramática con sus magníficos cañones, al igual que comas, con sus colosales rocas como puntos, con sus seductores paisajes, al igual que lienzos con el susurro de las olas, como poemas. Déjame revelarte los secretos de nuestra topografía humana, la geografía de la nostalgia que tanto nos hechiza. Toma nota, solo sucede que la quietud del tiempo ha tallado su esencia en nuestras almas, recordándonos de la tenacidad de la memoria, que moldea y demarca nuestros sueños y caminos circadianos. Esa geografía de la nostalgia que camina de la mano con el sagaz subjuntivo, limando con abandono, pero con ternura, los caprichos de la remembranza con su sosegada sabiduría, y los transforma en vivificantes senderos narraciones, convivios, en mitos por los que vivimos. Oh amada y a veces impertinente nostalgia, que persistes en hablarnos sobre el verde paisaje al otro lado del muro que nos tienta a cruzarlo bajo nuestro propio riesgo. Now the English version. The geography of nostalgia. Let me tell you about the geography of nostalgia, about that layout of ineffable feelings, emotions, and memories that sketch with subtle lines airs of Chiclayo, Cajamarca, the Cascades, the Andes, Coos Bay, Salem. Let me tell you about that accumulation of valleys, rivers, grasslands, oceans, mountains, and deserts, about that grammar with its magnificent canyons, escomas, with its colossal rocks, as periods, with its seductive landscapes as canvases, with the whisper of the waves as poems. Let me disclose to you the secrets of our human topography, the geography of nostalgia that enthralls us so much. Take note, it merely happens that the stillness of time has carved its essence in our souls, reminding us of the tenacity of memory that shapes and demarcates our dreams and circadian paths. This geography of nostalgia that walks hand in hand with the sagacious subjunctive, filing with abandonment, but with tenderness, the vagaries of remembrance with its calm wisdom, and transforms them into life-giving paths, stories, fellowships, in myths we live by. Oh, beloved, and sometimes impertinent nostalgia, you persist in telling us about the verdant landscape on the other side of the wall that tempts us to cross it at our own peril. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fran. That was absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous. I love listening to poetry written and spoken in Spanish. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous poem. Next up is Cynthia Jacoby from Fall 2021. She is the members only third place winner with her poem called A Gratitude on page 69. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you, everyone. A gratitude. Today, I ate a perfect summer peach with baby fuzz skin. I placed my knife into the cleft and sliced all around, then held it in both hands and twisted. The peach split with a slight suck into two hemispheres, one clutching the ragged pit. With the edge of my knife, I peeled Rosie's skin, leaving only flesh of the fruit. Cupped in my palm, pale and glistening, to be sliced into quarter moons and arranged on a blue plate.
Yum. My mouth is watering. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Okay, next up we have Lynn Otto. Has she arrived? Don't see her yet. Still a little early. We'll catch up with her after a bit. Brady Pearson is up next from Spring 2020 Poet's Choice first place winner with his poem Everyone Worries Schrodinger's Cat is Dead or Alive, Yet No One Stops to Ask Its Name, which is on page 9. Are you ready, Brady?
I am. All right. This is Everyone Worries Schrodinger's Cat is Dead or Alive, Yet No One Stops to Ask Its Name. You can measure the speed of light with a microwave and a chocolate bar. Though if the time we are given is a finite resource, it seems a better investment to spend it on you. According to the theory of special relativity, the faster you move through any spatial dimension relative to a stationary observer, the slower you appear to move through time. So when you said you wanted to spend eternity together, it made sense that the first thing you did was run from me as fast as you could. As long as I'm still, I can keep time from catching you. And since light moves at the cosmic speed limit, light never ages, which means, in light's perspective, we were never together anyway. Subjective fact. Gravity pulls on all of us at all times from all directions. Every heartbeat pumps against a cosmic war of tidal forces. Objective fact. I can float whenever I'm around you.
Bravo. Brady, that is such a cerebral, fascinating poem. I absolutely love the languge, the scientific physics language that you use in this poem is fantastic. Very
Thank
nice.
you very much.
Thank you. It was really fun. When I read that poem, when it first came out, I just went, wow, I wish I wrote that poem. Next up, Joanna Rose, Spring 2021, Poet's Choice, third place, with her poem 20 Grace Notes for Barry Lopez on page 12. Are you ready, Joanna?
I am, thank you. 20 Grace Notes for Barry Lopez. 1. I missed you at Brian Doyle's memorial service last night. 2. Your own health, someone said, fragile. 3. Canyon Red, Catherpes mexicanus. Song, a cascading series of clear whistled notes, decelerating in tempo. Audubon Society Field Guide to North American Birds, Western Region. 4. Your field notes are a guide for my life, and I keep giving them away. 5. One friend said this: if we are lucky, we come to define ourselves in the terms of a story we love. 6. Any pattern of knowing will stubbornly seek a narrative arc. 7. I stepped on the toe of your cowboy boot with the toe of my cowboy boot when I kissed your cheek in the open door of the bookstore. It was one of those sunny, cold winter days. 8. There is an uncompromised singularity in any joy, even when the word fragile makes me fragile. 9. I can hear your voice. 10. The tweed of your jacket held the smell of dust and cigarettes. 11. I have known you long enough to see your hair grow white. 12. The pause of your thoughts gathering was not tweed, but paisley. 13. I never told you about losing my blue jean jacket in Blue River, Oregon in 1979, even though it seemed like an important connection. I'd left it in the back of a pickup truck that had picked me up hitchhiking and then let me out at the historic covered bridge, which is where I was heading that day. 14. I am trying to find a way to describe thank you. 15. I will do this as my own hair grows white. 16. Thanking you is thanking every good thing. 17. I hitchhiked here from Blue River Valley in Colorado, where I didn't know the canyon ran. I spent the hours waiting for rides or warming up in truck stops, embroidering a blue bird on the sleeve of my blue jean jacket. 18. What I don't know yet, still, is the canyon wren, my own stubborn narrative arc. 19. The quiet song of the red-breasted nuthatch is barely discernible among the conifer sounds of the Pacific Northwest forests, while canyon wren song trills from pinioned talus slopes of the desert Southwest. Why Birds Sing, A Journey into the Mystery of Birdsong, David Rothenberg. 20. What I can't imagine is the work of my life without the work of your life.
That's gorgeous. What a gorgeous love poem. Joanna, what inspired this particular form where you used the numerical identifiers for the lines?
I've been working with it in a workshop on the lyric essay that I took with Andrea Hollander. And I was quite intrigued with how just the enumeration could create the form.
That's fascinating. It's a wonderful poem. Thank you so much. Next up is Concepcion Samano, spring of 2021. She won the Spanish language third place with her poem Infernal, which is on pages 50 through 52. Concepcion, are you ready to read? You're still muted, my dear. Thank
Well,
you.
I have to repeat over. Thank you so much for the invitation to participate tonight. And I want to apologize myself at the beginning because as you know, my English is my second language, and I'm learning, and I am not very good reading in English. So, but I will do my best. I will read the poem Wintry, well, Invernal in Spanish and in English, an English version first. Time of stagnation, of water that is paralyzed, that darkness, the light fog, a swamp invading the horizon, and the frozen stars in a sky that stalls without end over the echo of the barking of dogs and the pale beauty of the snowy pines. On the other side, the river is water that runs after itself, sail in its bower waters to pour into their storms that polishes rocks with the patience of the artist, with the force of the chisel. But more than just water, the river is time, storm, drowned words, scrolling deserts, traveling seas over land. It's all the ideas that pass in silence. The ideas that pass in silence. Residual words from the subconscious escaping from themselves. I don't know if the rain comes from the sky to blanket the valley that stretches across the globe, inexorable, and in no hurry to finish falling. Or is it moisture that comes from the windows themselves, tarnishing its transparency? I don't know if loneliness flows under the snow or the martial silence of the pines on the hills. It is perhaps a terrible bird that flies over in broad daylight, spreading the shadow among the silent forest. A cape that does not cover, a nostalgia for long flights from distant origins in time, despite the grass that tries to sprout with its flowers, from the general grave of all that has died in the geology of this landscape.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Thank you. Now in Spanish. Tiempo de estancamientos, de agua que se paraliza, se oscurece. Niebla demorada, un pantano invadiendo el horizonte y las estrellas congeladas, en un cielo que se atasca sin fin sobre el eco del ladrido de perros y la belleza alba de los pinos nevados. Del otro lado, el río es agua, que corre tras sí misma, navega en sus remansos para verterse en sus tormentas, que pule rocas con la paciencia del artista, con la fuerza del cincel. Pero más que solo agua, el río es tiempo, tempestad, palabras ahogadas, desiertos desplazándose, mares viajeros sobre la tierra. Es todas las ideas que transcurren en silencio. Palabras residuales del subconsciente escapando de sí mismas. Yo no sé si la lluvia viene del cielo para bañar el valle que se extiende por todo el orbe, inexorable y sin prisa por terminar de caer. O es una humedad que brota de las ventanas mismas, empañando su transparencia. No sé si la soledad mana debajo de la nieve o del silencio marcial de los pinos sobre las colinas. Es quizá un ave terrible que sobrevuela a pleno día, esparciendo la sombra entre los bosques silentes. Una capa que no arropa, una nostalgia de largos vuelos, de lejanas procedencias en el tiempo, pese a la hierba que puja por brotar con sus flores, de entre la tumba general de todo lo que se ha ahogado en la geología de este paisaje. Thank you so much.
Lovely poem. Beautiful rhythm, lovely imagery. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jade Walker, spring of 2021. She won second place in the under 30 category with her poem Heritage, which is on page 42. You ready, Jade?
Yes, I'm ready. Heritage after Lee Young Lee. My mother buried herself again. We watched the trout and the salmon swim up her cheeks, while the rocks and pebbles rested in her belly. Clouds stopped to take some of her steady river, and my sticky hands stole even more. My mother buried herself like old clocks in an antique shop. Passers-by shuffle on and regard the thing in need of great dusting. We must be the dust clinging on to mother for dear life. My mother buried herself in ashes, became a hearth to warm us. The flicker went out when we stopped adding firewood. Instead, my mother is wine that we drink to forget, forget, forget.
Thank you so much, Jade. That's a wonderful poem. I can absolutely see Lee Young Lee's influence in this poem. He's one of my favorite poets. Thank you so much for reading this for us. Lynn, are you here? Is Lynn Otto here? There she is. I see her. Okay, we're going to go back to Lynn Otto and catch up with her. In the spring 2021, she won second place in the traditional design with her poem Knitting Lessons, which is on page 38. Are you ready to read?
I'm ready. And
All
I'm sorry I was late. I had a class, so I'm sorry I missed some of the poems tonight. Knitting lesson. I pull the needles out from half a sleeve and wind the yarn back into a soft red ball. Quick, row by row, undo the faulty weave, turn sleeve to cuff, then nothing's there at all. It can be hard to make this drastic call, but compared to love, this is an easy art. A ball of yarn is nothing like a heart. This probably needs less tension this time round. It's worth the pains to take the thing apart. If only a lover's wounds could be unwound.
What a wonderful knitting lesson. I love it. Thank you so much for reading that. All right, everyone, that's all of our winning poems except for me. I actually was lucky enough to win a place in the spring 2021 contest, Poets' Choice, second place. And so I'm going to read that for you. It's called Certain Light, and it's on page 11. Certain light. Later, it was all I could think of. My skin turned translucent. There were particles of light attached to each blood cell between marrows, and they danced as they flowed. Rivers bouncing off boulders and splashing up into the morning's sunshine. I distinctly heard the roaring of rapids farther in. There were armies of sequined fish jumping high and fanning their tails, geishas slyly bowing, then smiling in kimonos. After, when the raft drifted, my arm hung lazily overboard, swishing in eddies, and the sweet fleshed fish nibbled my fingertips. Bright feathers began to appear singly at first, riffling past, undone by drake mallards, preening unseen, that emerald sheen nearly blinding the water. I tried to seine some, to reach into that wing, to bob loft, then to fly off, kicking hard with my feet at the surface. The feathers transformed back into sunlight, a mystical split via prism or liquid, back into green and green and green, until it was red again and flowed through my veins, pulsing my temples. I nearly drowned from the brightness. Thanks. I read that for Susan. Let's open up the evening to the open mic segment. Anyone who wishes to read a poem, please raise your hand by selecting the raise hand icon from the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. And